So this is crazy. I was in a newsroom setting on air. So I anchored the 4 o'clock news. It was me and a co-anchor. We have producers in our ear. We have scanners going off behind you. You have people doing their work and talking and running around getting ready for the 5 o'clock and the 6 o'clock news. You've got a weatherman, you've got a reporter, and you've got 3 to 4 cameras in front of you. You're fully versed when you get on the set to anchor a show. And so my producer said, we're going to go live. We're breaking in. We're going to go live. President Obama's just landed at Camp David, whatever he was there to do. Okay, sounds good. So the breaking news banner comes across and it comes onto me. And I say, we're going live to Camp David. We're President. Nothing.
Jefferson.
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln? Like, where are we? What are we doing? And I was like, blank.
Okay. 2 things right off the bat. One is my very best friend in the world spells her name Kerri, and you're the only other Kerri I've ever met with the same spelling. So that just makes me feel really warm and cuddly.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And she actually called me just like 10 minutes ago. I couldn't answer. So I feel like it's like a good start. Kerri O'Hara, thank you so much for doing this. I'm really excited to chat with you. And I also think it's really special that you were brought to us and to me into this conversation by Christina Questad, who's my partner in the Lynne Cohen Foundation and is my dearest, oldest friend. We've been friends since we were 4 and 5 years old. And she was just so excited to talk about you. And when she describes someone as like high energy, get shit done, badass woman, it's like the highest form of compliment ever. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation for those 2 reasons, but more so because I get to hear about you and what you're doing and what you're planning to do. So I thought we could start with kind of your entrepreneurial spirit, how it sort of changed and pivoted. And then obviously I want to get into the Curated Day Planner.
Yeah.
So, how did you get to where you are right now? Because I feel like you've had a few lives.
When I hear entrepreneurial spirit, I still don't really see myself as that. I grew up in Boston, just outside of Boston, and I wanted to be a broadcast journalist for as long as I could remember. I don't know where I came up with the idea. No one in my family does that. And a lot of times you do see broadcasters whose children go into it or whatnot, but I don't know. That was just what I was drawn to do. And so I guess that's kind of been a theme throughout my life, is that I really have that gut feeling of what's right and what we should be doing, and where that calling comes from, I'm not sure. But so I got into broadcast journalism and sent out 5 million tapes, had the postmaster totally involved in the process. Back in the day, it was like you put a VHS tape in an envelope and you walked in, and after a while, he was like, what are you doing? Where are you sending these VHS tapes? And so eventually I got a job in upstate New York. My mom dropped me off, and it was like the worst apartment you've ever seen. It had shag carpet, and I remember her leaving and me holding in the tears until she left, because I was like, you're going to leave me here? You've got to be kidding me.
How old were you?
21. So just in college. I didn't even walk in my college graduation. I got this job and I was so gung-ho. And so get there, crying my eyes out, pick myself up off the floor and go walk the track at the local high school. And started work the very next day and met some of my best friends to this day. I moved around the country. I was in 5 different states, loving every minute of it, every experience, good, bad, or indifferent. And then I got pregnant, and that was part of my goal. So I wanted to get married, get pregnant, have my first child, and then sign the big contract. Because everyone has plans like that, right? When they're 20 years old, everything. No one needed to tell me anything. I actually said to my mom after, when this all came unraveling, I was like, why didn't you tell me that this is how I would feel when I had a child? And she said, Kerri, has there ever been a time in your life that I could tell you right? Like a true mom, right?
Totally. I also think in general, especially for women, you have to go through those things and figure them out. I don't think anyone can fully explain. Also, it's so specific and different to everyone, but I think like you'll hear it and until you're in it, you don't really digest it anyways. Probably
Yeah,
what your mom was getting at, you know?
exactly. So she could have told me, it wouldn't have mattered. And in the end, I'm so happy of where I am.
Yeah.
So whatever. But anyway, so I had Fisher, and within 6 months, I was like, I'm done with television. I'm not doing this. I'm not traveling. I was in sports journalism. So I was not going to, in my mind, miss my child's game or concert or whatever it was to cover someone else's child doing it.
Right.
Moved back to Idaho where I had met my husband. And
So when you were stationed in Idaho at one point and that's where you met your husband?
yes, so my second TV job was in Idaho. And that's where I met Jason. And I left. He followed after 2 years later. And at the time, now Boise has kind of become a little bit of a city now, but at the time, it was really nothing. There were really no jobs. And there was, I wasn't going to go back to TV. One of my coworkers at my station's like, you can't go back to a small market. It's just not going to work out for you. So I started in real estate. And it happened that I started in real estate at the same time that the Boise market started exploding. So it all worked perfectly.
And why real estate?
I couldn't sit still. That's been a common theme in my life. I can't sit still. And actually, I can say that has a part, the planner has a part to do with me not being able to sit still. I always have this restlessness to do something and to change something and to make something. But, and we'll talk about it, but when my mom passed away, it was like a real reckoning to look at yourself and say, where are you running to? What do you need? What are you trying to prove or trying to get to? Because you're pretty lucky where you are right now.
I completely agree with you. I think those sort of monumental life moments, especially of deep loss, you sort of take a moment and you're like, am I trying to fill something? Am I trying to avoid something? Am I just moving? Like, what is it? And it takes sometimes those big moments in order to look in the mirror, I think.
Yeah, I heard someone say that you're either forced to make changes or you make changes. And I guess this was kind of both. So my mom got sick for the first time when I was 25. I'm 43 now. And she had the first type of cancer, which was a thyroid cancer, which interestingly enough, her mother had passed away from ovarian cancer. And so she had been at Brigham Women's in Boston, which is now Mass General Brigham, all those years that I was growing up as part of a study about the BRCA gene and the relation between breast and ovarian cancer. And they were watching it very closely.
Yeah.
At that entire time, she had been being tracked. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere came thyroid cancer. And so,
how did they diagnose it?
So my dad was giving her a neck massage and a lump popped out of her neck. And it had been there the whole time. She was stage 4 when she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
And no symptoms?
No symptoms. So she had always had Hashimoto's.
Okay.
And, this all correlates to the planner as well, because you start learning about how we're caring for ourselves and how we are treating thyroid cancer or thyroid disease and realizing there might be another way here. There's just so many amazing medical interventions happening. So she had thyroid cancer when I was 25. That went into remission and it just kept coming back as another form of cancer. So every couple of years, it went from thyroid to breast to lung. It was in her liver. Like it kept coming back.
How old was she when she passed?
68. So
so you were 25 and how old was she with her first diagnosis?
Are you good at math?
No. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, she battled from the time that I was 25 until I was 41. So 16 years.
That's a long time.
A long time.
That's a long time for so many of these things. So that's a long time for her to almost constantly, consistently battle cancer and treatments for those cancers. And that's a long time for her to persevere. I mean, if anything, that's real sign of her strength and endurance and resilience. Having never met her, I mean, I would just assume that.
Yeah. Well, I think that was in the end, that's what she said. She was really done with every 2 years or every 6 months at the end, like
Yeah.
getting a scan and being like, okay, here's where it is. And
Yeah.
it's brutal and
Yeah.
the treatment is brutal. And she was, that's definitely where I get my hyperactivity from, always doing something and going somewhere because that's what she did until literally it
She
stopped
couldn't.
her in its tracks. It had to, that
Yeah.
was the only way she was stopping.
Yeah. That's a lot. Do you have siblings?
I do have two. I have a younger sister and a younger brother.
I mean, so you're the oldest, oldest girl. That is, I mean, it's a lot for your mom. It's a lot between the ages of 25 to 41 during those sort of incredible years of getting married, I'm assuming, building your family, settling down. You weren't living near your mom, like all of those things that are happening while she's battling. And I get the sense that she had a really good attitude.
Yeah.
And so she probably didn't call you crying, but, it was like, my guess is also knew what was happening, like logically and then also sort of emotionally. And that's a lot. How did you deal with it? How did you cope? How did you figure out how to live as a daughter with a mom who was battling cancer for so long?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I did it in the best way. And
There's no good way.
there's no good way to go through any of this. I'm thankful for everything she taught me because it's brought me here. But at the same time, I grew up in New England, and New England is full of stoic human beings. I mean,
Still like very British. It's like the old school British.
Yes. I grew up in a large Irish Catholic family. And so everything was going to be okay. Everything was, no matter what was going on. And that's how we were taught from just a very young age that we fall down, get up and shake it off, And so that's really how she approached her battle. And that's kind of, we all fell in line and did that as well. As I reflect back now, I'm like, well, we could have been a little softer, but right down to the end, I mean, both my parents had moved here for years. They traveled in and out. They loved to travel and went back to Boston. And we were at my aunt's house and they set up a hospital room basically in one of my aunt's bedrooms. And my mom was like, I'm not going in there. That's ridiculous. And so they moved in this enormous, comfortable recliner. And that's where she was for the past 2 weeks of her life. That the doctors were incredible. I mean, the doctors in Boston at Mass General Brigham, but they said, you have 2 weeks. And she literally had 2 weeks. And so it was a 2-week party in that room, which I don't think she would have wanted anything else.
That's so nice. And that's a lovely way to have the end of her life and for her and for you all, for sure.
Yeah.
My mom was very similar. She completely different upbringing in completely different parts of the country, but she was in some ways less so than her mom, my grandmother, but it was really, I mean, my grandmother was like the quintessential, put a smile on your face, put some makeup on, and everything's great, you know? She was a daughter whose, her father lost all his money in the Depression and had committed suicide to the day my grandma died. It was an accident. Like she just was very, keep moving forward. No one's going to like you if you look sad and you're crying. Like that was her shtick. And my mom wasn't that intense. She was a little bit more grounded in some ways, but she really barreled forward. She was sick for 5 years, but her way of dealing with it was, I'm just going to keep moving and I'm going to keep doing everything that I have the ability to do physically until I can, which, some days she couldn't, but most days she would make herself. And I think back and I wonder too, I think that word softer is really poignant because I wonder if she had been a little softer with herself, if that would have made any sort of difference, either to her longevity or just quality of life during that time. And if we would have responded differently and softer, and I don't know, who knows, but I do think that was just in the nature of how some women, particularly probably my mom was older than yours, but in that generation of, you got to keep moving forward and not let this just consume you because whatever life you you have, you're going to make the most of it, which I do think just passes on to their daughters in this way of a little bit better than maybe softer than her and softer than our grandmas, but like there's no rest, there's no like farming it out. Like that's just not how we roll. And I think it's kind of amazing, but it takes sometimes away from us understanding what our body's going through, what our immediate and long-term needs are for the changes that are happening in our life that are, getting older, going through perimenopause, menopause, our kids getting older, all the different stages. So I'm really interested in this curated day planner because I think you're addressing those things and I feel like trying to find a balance between keep the doer part of us alive, but grounded a little. Is that a fair way of describing?
You had Dr. Mary Beth on your podcast not too long ago. I listened to that and she was talking about like basically how we're taught as women to grin and bear it.
Yeah.
And that's finally, like you said, from your mom, from your grandmother to your mom to you, each generation has gotten, and it's not softer in a bad way because I think there's a lot of people that say soft and you've gotten soft. No, it's not.
I agree.
It's just trying to be honest and to live the best way for you. Because if we're not whole, everyone that's surrounding us, every person that's in your life and Christina's life and my life, it just all falls apart. Because
you got to put your mask on first. That's what I always say.
And so the idea behind the curated day was really that, there's this movement with the trad mom or trad wife that
as I am very kindly known by all of my friends. Yes.
You are?
Oh, yeah. Hardcore.
What I love about that is we walked past that, right? We were like 50s, 60s. We're done. We're going to be women and we're going to march to the beat of our own drum and whatever else. And I'm thankful for all of that because that is how we are where we are today. But at the same time, there's something that is special about being able to have both sides of your life. Like I heard somewhere that women release serotonin when they're helping. So they're releasing serotonin when they're helping their children or they're helping their husband or their friends or whatever else. And that really rings true. So the idea behind the curated day is to stop barreling forward. If you want to be here for the long run and you want to take care of everybody around you and you want to live a good life, like I, of course, this is probably a little bit of PTSD, but like my mom didn't know all of this. And so who knows what kind of stress she was carrying and how that affected her cancer. We don't know. And now there's a huge movement toward, I grew up eating very healthy and my mom did as well, but a bigger movement where you can get the food that's healthy anywhere, right? You get options and that kind of thing. So the idea behind it is kind of just, when I say curate, it's just to select, to organize your life, to make it in a way that you're remembering you. And I think in middle age as well, that needs to happen. And if you don't, that's when the burnout comes. And that's when you're not paying attention to your hormones. And all of a sudden, I've seen it with my own friends, like get into situations that they don't want to be in. You've gone too far. You've pushed it for too long. And if you had just taken a step back and maybe thought like, why does this feel wrong? What's going on with me? Maybe it could have been avoidable.
Yeah. Oh, right? 100%. Yeah. So tell me what it looks like if you can describe it and how you interact with it.
Yeah. So I've been a planner person forever. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 25. And the doctor said to me,
Wait a second. Question. How did you get diagnosed with ADHD at 25? Because you're younger than I am. So you might have grown up with a little bit of more of like that being something you get tested for. But I've rarely heard someone at the age of 25 get tested with ADHD when you're done with school, because usually it's a teacher recommendation, some sort of advisor or counselor recommendation in the school system, and or it's evident in your test taking or your interaction. But at 25, that's very unusual.
Yeah. Well, I think it actually was relevant. It was relevant to my
Sure.
entire life. And it was, you could see that it was there when looking back. But so this is crazy. I was in a newsroom setting on air. So I anchored the 4 o'clock news. It was me and a co-anchor. We have producers in our ear. We have scanners going off behind you. You have people doing their work and talking and running around getting ready for the 5 o'clock and the 6 o'clock news. You've got a weatherman. You've got a reporter, and you've got 3 to 4 cameras in front of you.
So that's a lot.
With a teleprompter, supposedly telling people what's going on. So as a news anchor throughout the day, you're prepping and you're reading the AP wire that comes across and you're finding out what's going on and whatever. So you're fully versed when you get on the set to anchor a show. And so my producer said, we're going to go live. We're breaking in. We're going to go live. President Obama's just landed at Camp David, whatever he was there to do. Okay, sounds good. So the breaking news banner comes across and it comes onto me. And I say, we're going live to Camp David. We're President. Nothing.
Jefferson.
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln? Like, where are we? What are we doing? And I was like, blank. And luckily, they had pulled up the video of him coming off of Air Force One or whatever he had come in on. And my co-anchor, I looked at him like, just
help me.
Oh, and he leaned over and started talking in my mic. And we went to break. And I had no idea what happened. And of course, started crying. And I went to the doctor, and within like 5 minutes, he said, I said I had a brain tumor. I had a brain tumor because why else would I go completely blank and not know who the president of the United States was? Right. Yeah. And he kind of snickered and he said, sweetheart, you don't have a tumor. You have ADHD, and it's probably pretty significant. And so then I went through all of the testing and whatnot. And yeah, I had lived my entire life. Talk about New England stoicism. There was nothing wrong with me. There was never anything wrong with me. I worked so hard to get decent grades. I went above and beyond, but never produced what you should have produced had you put that much work in. Now, granted, my report cards always said Kerri would be a great student if she stopped talking. My 7th grade teacher told my mom when she found out that I'd become a news anchor that she was glad that I found a way to get paid for all of my talking. So that was a common thread. But more than anything, I lived my whole life with a planner, with Post-it notes. I never went anywhere without it because it was the only way.
I think it's kind of fascinating. We have this conversation as a family a lot about the generation, ours and really even probably 10 years older than us, who had all these, had all the things that our kids are diagnosed with at a young age at this point. But the difference was they either succumbed to it and were bad students, got in trouble, etc., or figured out how to overcome it on their own, like you did. So you made a planner, you had Post-it notes, you probably took incredible notes in class with I can see them in outline form, which is how my brain works, And my friend Kerri, who I mentioned at the beginning, we're so similar, and we joke now we're almost 50 about, the notes we used to take. And it was like and our Filofax, we lived in our Filofax and wrote things down after the fact so that they would be in there. So our day looked, appropriate. And that just these things that we did and figured out how to do on our own so that we could sort of make sense of all the noise around us.
Right.
And I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I think that for me, that was just how my personal brain worked. And then as a family, I said, we talk about it because I think there's these pros and cons to, if you look at very, very successful people in the world, most of them overcame some sort of learning disability or challenge without any of the incredible things that medicine and science can now help kids with. And I struggle with it because look at you, you figured it out. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with, any sort of medical intervention at younger ages if you have diagnoses like ADHD or dyslexia or anything like that. Yeah. I just think it's this really interesting way to look at the sort of the generational gap with how we're dealing with it.
Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, my son was diagnosed with ADHD at fifth grade. And I
Which
said,
is very normal for a boy. Yeah.
right, right. And you see why. But he
I
was,
mean, for them to get diagnosed at that age for like,
right.
yeah.
Yes, because at that point you've got hormones entering
hmm
in and
hmm
they're becoming their own person, they're pulling
hmm
away. But he was a straight A student. I said, "What do you mean he has ADHD? He's a straight A student, right? There's nothing wrong. I'm not going to medicate him for no reason." And this is coming from someone who has
Yeah.
gone on and off medication since 25. He literally couldn't sit still, and
Yeah.
he was distracting to other kids. And so I'm so thankful for the medication for that reason, because for him you could tell that it was
It's a game
hurting
changer.
him. Yes, and it was hurting him that he couldn't do what he was being asked to do. He was being asked to not distract his classmates. He was being asked to participate. He was being asked to do these things, and he physically couldn't do it.
Yeah. It's incredible. I mean, and that the teachers and staff, faculty knew
Yes.
what they were knew what they saw,
Mhm.
and then had the confidence and the ability to intervene. And as a parent, you were receptive. I think it's amazing to me. And I think there's so much, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on that, which we're not going to do, but I think that there's obviously I'm a science believer. I believe in medicine. I support
Yes.
medicine and research. And I think it gives kids especially, and I have 3 boys. And so I think it's a little different with boys too. And you might feel that way, but this ability to see them now through different lenses. And I actually think it goes back to what we've been saying, which is the softening, this sort of that it's not a negative. It's like, I think it's like the softening a little of expectation and lens of which we see the world and our family and our friends around us, which is a beautiful thing, if more than anything.
Yeah.
So, okay, so go back to, you have your curated day. Like, how are you envisioning this looks, and how do we use it so that we can be our best optimal selves?
Yeah. So, like I said, I carried a planner around since I had one, and that was, much younger than that, sixth grade or whenever we were introduced to planners. But this one in particular, what I wanted to do was blend, just what we were talking about, a blend of wellness and our to-do list. There is no giving up on your career and all the things you need to do. It'd be great if we could all go live on a farm and make our own food and do yoga and meditate all day. And, maybe then we wouldn't need medicine. But at the same time, that's not real life. And I feel like there's a shift in society as a whole to understand we went so far one way during COVID. We have now, I feel as though our society is kind of back in, okay, what matters, what's real, what's not. If COVID taught us anything, it's we can't separate people, right? We love each other. And the planner takes your wellness factors. And when I say wellness, we have check boxes for the things that you have to remember. Drinking your water. Why is it easy to drink 20 cups of coffee, but you can't drink your water? Right? So your water and your daily fiber and your vitamins, and there's openings for whatever supplements that you might take. So there's that section. Then you have the top tasks for the day. So this is something that I really dug into when researching how to put this planner together. What are the ways that people can truly focus on what they need to get done versus you've got a lot on a to-do list and you selectively go through, oh, I want to do that. I want to do this. No, what needs to get done today? So those are your top 3 tasks for the day. Underneath, you have a follow-up and other tasks. So that's the stuff that's less important or that you need a follow-up on. There's so much research to how our brains work as far as holding all of the information in. That's the last thing we should be doing. We should be task focused. And then we have our reminders, not trying to remember all the time and all the things that are going on. So for me, and this has been my case with every planner that I've bought, having it with you. Charlotte, who works for you, has been instrumental in making this planner come to life. But each iteration we went through, I was like, that's not durable enough. This has to be form and function. It has to look nice. You have to want to carry it. But at the same time, it's going to be banged around. It's going to be tossed in your bag and in your car and on your nightside table and whatnot. So you have those areas. One of my favorite sections is called the brain dump. And so how I related this to other people is like, it's like closing the 47 tabs, hitting the reset button on your computer.
Inbox zero.
Yes. Doesn't that sound so good?
Yeah.
And you can put everything that you're thinking of in that brain dump section. It's not something that has to be handled immediately, but it's something that you can relieve your brain of that stress and come back to later on. Here's where the trad wife comes in. You might like this. I always feel like the most stressful question I get in a day is when my husband or kids ask me, what's for dinner?
And that is the most stressful. I mean, people, all these like bloggers, what the fuck to make to dinner for dinner tonight? I mean, literally, it's the most annoying, awful, stressful, anxiety-ridden part of my week.
Imagine. Yes, I have to imagine that ChatGPT gets asked that millions of times a day. What to do for dinner, right? And so the idea is just to have it down. It does not need to be anything like yesterday. It said leftover lasagna, Jason, pork tenderloin, Kerri, because we had all this stuff from the weekend in the refrigerator. Some people like certain things, some people don't. Great. It was a leftover night.
Yeah.
The stress relief is down because no matter what, that question still comes. So that's one of the lines. Harvard did a research study on the happiness of people. It was like the longest running study. You've probably seen this everywhere on Instagram and whatnot. But what it came down to in the end, and again, this is something that we learned during COVID, is that people need people. Mm-hmm. We need connection. And when you get to like where we are in life, you're running your career, you've got aging parents, you have teenagers, you have everything that's going on, your own health and wellness. How are you supposed to manage all of that? And then also have time for lunch with your girlfriend or a phone call, whatever. But that's the idea. If we don't have that, we need that more than anything. And so we've got to remember to cultivate that and to keep those relationships strong. And it doesn't have to be much. It can be a text message when you're sitting in the carpool line. It can be, sharing a song from the early 2000s that comes on the radio. It can be anything, but just to let people know that you are there and you're there for them. And hopefully they're there for you. And it's huge. And also sharing. We've talked about middle age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your hormones and the changes that happen. And you need to be able to talk to your girlfriends. You need to be able to share where you're at and how you're feeling. And if you've let that connection go, it's an isolating place. And also, I think sometimes when you're having a bad day, you don't really want to reach out because you don't, like your grandmother, you don't want to be taking someone else down. Right. But the more you share I think that gives others the right to and the desire to do the same and to be honest about it.
Dr. Alicia Robbins, who I love, who I've interviewed, and she's honed her gynecologic practice on menopause and perimenopausal women. And she says this all the time, that women, as we get older, women with strong female connections live longer and healthier lives. It's just a scientific fact. And so those studies came out of the happiness study and honed in on women in particular, especially because still so many more women work from home and don't have the office culture and aren't having those sort of conversations all day. But women who have strong female connections have a happier, healthier, longer life. And I do think that it's something to put in your planner.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom used to say to me, relationships, friendships are hard work. Your marriage will be hard work, and that's not a bad thing. It just means you have to be active and involved and an active participant. And she was like, and your friendships too. If you want to have strong friendships and connections, it has to be something you think about. You can't just sort of let it happen. And so I love this idea of putting it, literally writing it down. I do have a question. So I, like you, I love a good planner. I love writing things down. I tell my kids all the time they ask me some things. I'm like, write it down. I'm like, the act of writing it down helps your brain remember it. And also it just, then you see it. And they don't do anything written with their hands right now anymore. They do it all on the computer. So do you have plans to make this also a digital platform? Or are you going to keep it quote unquote old school and have it be, like a pen and paper?
Yeah, I've been asked that several times, and I'm not really sure. Maybe if that is something that people are asking for and wanting, or maybe if it's that it morphs to, I hope that this helps people live intentionally. And
Mhm.
that for us, that's our age category. But also, my nanny, who's much younger, reached out and she was excited about this planner. And my brother, who is a psychologist, was like, I love this idea. So who knows? And I'm open to anything. I have a digital planner because there's no way I could share my children's schedules and my husband's and trying to figure it all out. That there is a place for that and it's not
Mhm.
going anywhere, right?
Mhm.
But I think when you have it down on a piece of paper, it's building the habits toward intentional living. And that's the idea here. It's when it comes to, let's say, the Connect box, you write down your girlfriend is going to do whatever. Say she has a doctor's appointment that she's nervous about. It's next week. Put
Mhm.
her down in the Connect box on that day. Send her a text message. You're thinking about her. We don't
Yeah.
need to remember everything. We can still be thoughtful by writing it in a planner so
Mhm.
that when her day comes, you can send her, a heart emoji or whatever it is to be able to say that you're not alone and that we'll talk through this and we'll get through this. And I think that there's so many planners out there that to me felt overwhelming.
Mhm.
I'm doing enough in a day. I don't need you to ask me my 3 goals for today.
Yeah, I
My
agree.
goal is to make it through the day. My goal is to have dinner for everybody. And my goal is to connect with a friend. And my goal is to get a workout in while also making sure that my clients are fulfilled in anything they need that day.
Yeah.
That's my goal every day. So this is more of the planner that's just, I want it to spark some inspiration in somebody. I want them to be able to say, like, okay, I can follow this guideline and know that I'm doing the best I can for my own wellness, for the people around me, for my longevity, for my health, and trying to stay sane and focused along the way.
Yeah. I think of it, and when I think about my mom, and I think that she lived a really good life. I don't know how intentional she was every day. And I always wonder, I try not to go down too far down the rabbit hole, but I always wonder if she had been more intentional in her daily life, would she have not just noticed the things that were happening to her body that were definite signs and symptoms that she had something wrong, but if she would have been more confident and inspired and connected, and she had a lot of friends that she was really connected to, but if that intent was there deeper or more deeply, would she have then shared those things with those
Yes.
females? And then someone could have said to her, who wasn't her husband, who wasn't her kids, who wasn't even her doctor, that doesn't sound right.
Right.
We need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And I think that's, to me, a really powerful thing that will hopefully can come out of this planner, but more just this, what your goal is behind it, which is
Yeah.
for us to live more intentionally.
Right. Right. And the goal is just the movement of it. What you're saying about your mom, I feel like I've even said things to my friends lately. I went on the estradiol patch. I
Mhm.
had spoken to my OBGYN and I was like, I feel like I'm going to kill somebody between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock every day. And I have no idea why. Like nothing is wrong. I'm working hard. I'm happy. There's no reason as to why I feel like this, but I'm so edgy.
Mhm.
And so we started the estradiol patch, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like maybe I should have done this a couple of years ago. And I think back of my mom and at her when she was hitting this stage, we were still following the study that said we can't put women on
Yeah.
estrogen. We
The
can't go.
clearly debunked of study that will end up with breast cancer. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm still finding that people have that idea in their head that these HRTs are going to cause cancer. I'm not going to
My
take that.
cardiologist, who I saw a couple of months ago, who's like the leading cardiologist in Denver, and he said something. He's like, "Well, it'll increase breast cancer." And I said, "I have to tell you that's completely not true." And he's
And
like,
you know
"Really?"
what?
Yeah. And I said, I don't. I said, and I thought to myself, "Don't be rude, Amy." Then I was like, "Fuck that! I don't want him to tell any other woman that." And I said, "Sir, that is not true. That has been completely debunked. That study was debunked years ago.
Right.
And hormone replacement treatment with bioidentical hormones does not increase your chance of breast cancer." And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go look that up." And I said, "Please do, because that's a really important
Yeah,
piece of
and
information."
call the women you already told that to
Yeah.
and let them
Yeah.
know. But that's what I think. Like back at that time, that's what my mom believed. And of course, she was in the study for BRCA. And so it was even heightened that she's not going to add more hormones to her body. But I remember those days like, yikes, she's a bit edgy today. And you just think like, okay, what could estrogen have done? What door could have that opened for her? What if? And so it's so important to have those relationships, but it's so important to just be in touch with yourself. So there's a self-care area and a workout area, because also at middle age, you're supposed to be doing all these different workouts. Are you doing your VO2 max and your weightlifting and your balance and your whatnot? And so you can trick that. And hey, this week I did my balance, I did my VO2 max, I did my zone 2 cardio, whatever. You handled it. And there's just such a sense of accomplishment too, when you get to the end of the day and you've gotten to check off and cross off everything that you've done throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree. And seeing it physically and looking at it and being like, because the weeks you work out a lot, the weeks you don't, the weeks you do well, you don't, you hit you check the box in your head, but seeing it tangibly is such a game changer. I love it. I'm so excited. So tell me the timeline and what's happening in this process.
So today is December 9th. I'm not sure when you air this, but we will have them in hand on December 17th, which is...
Oh, wow. Like you're in the final stages here. You're wrapping us up with a bow. This is so exciting. I love it.
Exciting.
What a fabulous holiday gift.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping that this will be a great thing for women moving into 2026. I'm really excited.
Well, this is awesome. I'm really excited to have had this conversation, Kerri. I think this is so cool. It's so unique. It's not, you didn't create the moon here, but what you did, which is not necessary, what you did is it seems like you've put it together in a way that is easy to use, easy to handle, and it gives us what we need the most, which is the ability to live intentionally and thoughtfully. And that is actually the key to longevity. Longevity isn't living to 100. It's living well until you hit whatever age. And I think that adding this piece into our lives will really help us do that. So I'm super excited.
Thank you. Yeah, I want people to live with a full cup, not running around on empty with a never-ending checklist and brain fog and everything else. So I hope that it's my part to make sure that we're all living a little bit better.
I love it. I cannot wait to see it. And I can't wait to see all the different designs you can do with it. I mean, there's so much. It's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been fabulous.
Thank you. And let me know when you're in Idaho so we can do the hike up, not down.
That's how I roll.
Right? That's how my knees hurt coming down.
Yeah.